During the late Han Dynasty, Gu Xuan married Lv Lingqi, and Lv Bu became his father-in-law. On the eve of the invasion of the Bingzhou army into Beijing, Gu Xuan assisted Lv Bu in killing Ding Yuan unharmed and taking over the power of Bingzhou. At the same time, he also competed with Dong Zhuo of the Western Liang army for the power of the Han Dynasty. After defeating Dong Zhuo, Lv Bu fought fiercely against the feudal lords of Kanto, and Gu Mo planned to annihilate several allied forces. The usual art style has also become like this. Father-in-law, fight well and provide me with advice. Father-in-law, don't rush any further. Let me use my plan to help you completely annihilate the enemy. Lv Bu laughed heartily. My military prowess is unparalleled in the world, and my intelligence is unparalleled. I have a son-in-law, what do you have? Yuan Shao. I hate my fourth generation and third husband, but I don't have a good son-in-law like Gu Xuan. Cao Cao. Gu Xuan, I'll marry Cao Jie to you. Can you hang out with me? Dong Zhuo. The Western Liang army of the old man will ultimately not win against Liu Bu and Gu Xuan. Liu Bei. Lv Bu lacks advisors, so do I. Lv Lingqi, Dong Bai, Zhen Mi, Diao Chan, De Qiao, Xiao Qiao, Bian Shi, Zou Shi. Husband, embrace. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. My wife is Lv Lingqi, and my father-in-law is Lv. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. 188 AD. In the 5th year of Zhongping Bingzhou Jiuyuan County, the autumn wind rustled, accompanied by a bloody scene on the ground, interweaving into a reddish-brown painting. On the vast grassland, holding the Fang Tian Hua Ji in hand, Liu Bu rode a thin yellow horse, and behind the horse sat a young man. The young man's eyebrows and starry eyes are sharp and angular. Under the sunlight, there was a smile in the corners of my eyes and a vast collection of books in my chest. Although there is no feather fan and silk scarf of Zhuge Kongming, and no harmonies of Zhou Lang's Qin and Se. But the handsomeness and confidence between his eyebrows can only be surpassed by those who read this book, who are more handsome than readers. Father-in-law, you old horse, are you walking too slowly? The young man curled his lips and remorselessly roast. The Fang Tian Hua Ji in Liu Bu's hand paused and sighed. Don't despise it. This old horse has been with me for 8 years, and even if its strength has declined, it is not comparable to ordinary war horses. 8 years. A whole 8 years, do you know what this concept is? At that time, even Lingqi was just a little girl movie. The young man remained silent. It's not easy for me to be a cheap father-in-law. Previously, people in history gave nicknames such as, Three Family Slaves, Father Killer, Destroyer of Tyrants, and, Father Sorrow. Little did they know. Throughout the late Han and Three Kingdoms periods, I, as a cheap father-in-law, was one of the few commoners born but mixed into the ranks of major warlords. Others, such as Yuan Shao, Yuan Shu, Cao Cao, Liu Bei, and Sun Jian, which one doesn't have a background and status. For example, Liu Bei, many people always say that he sells grass shoes and his family is in dire straits. Well, if Liu Bei is really down and represents the monarch of the common class, can he become Liu Ji's nominal disciple and play with Yuan Shao and Cao Cao? Do you know what the concept of Liu Ji's nominal disciple is? In the late Han literary world, Liu Ji's position was approximately equivalent to that of the president of Huaqin University. Is it possible for an average person to become a named disciple of the president of Huaqin University? Besides, regardless of whether Liu Bei's identity as the Empress Dowager of Zhongshan is questionable or not, he is ultimately a member of the Liu Han royal family, recognized by Liu Xia as the left general, and a relative of the Han family. As for Yuan Shao and Yuan Shu, there is no need to say much about them. They are members of the Yuan family, the leader of the world's aristocratic families. What about Cao Cao? Just looking at the Cao family alone, it is indeed not top-notch. But the Cao family, Xiahou family, and Ding family, Mrs. Ding's own family, are collectively known as the three major families of Qiao County, also known as the three major local snakes of Qiao County. The integration of the three families, although their overall strength still cannot be compared to that of the head of a noble family like the Yuan family, cannot be underestimated. The last remaining Sun Jian could be called the local hegemon in the generation of Wu County. Sun Jian's father and grandfather also held official positions at the level of prefect, and Sun Jian himself was awarded the title of Marquis of Wucheng after fighting against the rebels in Liangzhou. This is a marquis. Before the era of warlord rule, the proportion of marquis was very rare. So, do you call Sun Jian a commoner born? It is not uncommon to say that commoners were born. For example, Dong Zhuo and Ding Yuan. But the reason why these two people became high-ranking officials in the frontier was mainly due to the support of the Yuan family. Especially when Emperor Lu Hong was still alive, Dong Zhuo and Ding Yuan were considered the two ace cards in the Yuan family's hands. It was precisely because the two were treated as subordinates by the Yuan family that the Yuan family instigated He Jin to summon Dong Zhuo Dingyuan to the capital. In addition, Dong Zhuo and Ding Yuan themselves can also be considered as general forces, possessing a certain amount of private servants and subordinates. It's just that compared to aristocratic families, these generals are more like newly rising nouveau riche in recent decades. And what about Lv Bu? Mad, being poor and penniless is nothing. Apart from being armed, perhaps the most valuable item throughout the body is the Fangtian painted halberd crafted from ancestral black iron. The first turning point of Lv Bu's fate was when Ding Yuan became the governor of Bingzhou, fell in love with Lv Bu, and regarded him as his adopted son. However, in the battle against Xianbei, Lv Bu repeatedly made achievements. In addition, with the help of loyal friends such as Gu Xuan and Zhang Liao, who were also martial artists, Lv Bu's contribution in the military was increasing. Gradually, Ding Yuan realized that something seemed to be wrong. Bingzhou Wolf Rider, surprisingly only knows Lv Bu and not Ding Yuan. Is this special enough? In order to restrict Lv Bu, Ding Yuan praised him and asked him to read more books, transferring him to the position of civil servant-in-chief. It's funny to say. Lv Bu is an unparalleled general in the world. What's the point of being a laborer and a weak leader? He's busy dealing with government affairs every day. Do you think it's fun or not? To put it simply, Ding Yuan was afraid that Lv Bu's increasing power would pose a threat to him. This is the predicament that Lv Bu faced before the young man beside him arrived. But after this young man arrived, everything changed accordingly. This young person's name is Gu Xuan, originally from Blue Star in the 21st century. After crossing the end of the Han Dynasty, he was born and raised there for 17 years. Until 3 months ago, he gradually awakened the memories of his past life. I originally intended to rely on my understanding of the late Han Dynasty to invest in potential stocks early on, and in the future, I would take a leisurely job and marry a few concubines. As a result, before Gu Xuan could leave Zhouyuan, several Xianbei bandits approached and surrounded him on the spot. Where is Gu Xuan, who has no power to bind the Kun, the opponent of the Xianbei bandits? Fortunately, at a critical moment, a young female general riding a jujube red pony arrived with a heroic demeanor, and a few painted halberds repelled the Xianbei bandits. Otherwise, it's highly likely that Gu Xuan wants to finish his calf. And this young female general, named Lv Lingqi, is the daughter of Lv Bu. Apart from being handsome and having a smarter mind, Gu Xuan couldn't find anything else to repay Lv Lingqi. As a reward, Gu Xuan had no choice but to abandon his old face and use the handsome man trick to repay Lv Lingqi. How could Liu Lingqi, a simple girl from the end of the Han Dynasty, compete with Gu Xuan, a future old sea king? After a while, Lv Lingqi was teased by Gu Xuan and her face turned red and her ears turned red, causing her deer to bump around wildly. However, Gu Xuan has a principle. The kindness of a drop of water should be repaid by a gushing spring. Anyway, Lv Lingqi is his life-saving benefactor. At the thought of the historical predicament of Liu Bu and Liu Lingqi's father and daughter, Gu Xuan couldn't bear it. Moreover, with his three-legged skills, it is unrealistic to seek refuge with other monarchs in other places. Naturally, they chose to follow Lv Lingqi back to the military camp. If even after trying hard, Lv Lingqi's fate cannot be changed, then taking her back to the mountains and forests may be a way out. But as a grand passerby, Gu Xuan has no reason to give up without putting in a fight. As soon as they arrived at the military camp, Lv Bu and others didn't really take notice of Gu Xuan, thinking he was just a little white face picked up by Lv Lingqi. But in the next 2 months, Gu Xuan used a small trick to help Liu Bu regain some of the military power of the Bingzhou army. At the same time, he also helped Liu Bu obtain the opportunity to go to the battlefield and kill enemies from Dingyuan. The core figures of Liu Bu's power, including Liu Bu, Zhang Liao, and Gao Shun, have all gone from disdainful to obedient to Gu Xuan. And today, as usual, it's the day when Gu Xuan, the son.in.law, accompanies Lv Bu, the cheap father.in.law, to pursue the Xianbei cavalry. What? Is Gu Xuan not afraid of death? Of course I'm afraid. So he hid behind his father.in.law Lv Bu. Yes, that's right. Gu Xuan has no power to bind Kuan, and he can't even catch my pigeons. But his father.in.law is not. In the late Han Dynasty, his father.in.law ranked second in military power, but who dared to call him first? P.S. When Liu Bu killed Ding Yuan, historical records indicate that he was already over 30 years old, approaching the age of 30.5. Considering the early marriage in the late Han Dynasty, it is normal for Lv Lingqi to be in her teens at this time. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2 Lv Bu. My uncle is very good, that is. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Father-in-law, why don't you put in some effort and go get a wild chicken or something before going back? Gu Xuan touched his groaning stomach and advised Liu Bu beside him. A faint black line flashed across Liu Bu's forehead. What a special thing. He is a fierce general, actually going to fight wild chickens. But my good uncle is hungry, and besides, fighting wild chickens is just a piece of cake. If you do, let's just fight. Mom. With such a good temper, is this still the Liu Bu recorded in history books? Actually, many times, we have to approach problems from different perspectives. The historical figure Liu Bu became the extermination father, and was hanged from the White Gate Tower. His evaluations are all written by his opponents. There are many things that naturally need to be slightly modified. Besides, Liu Bu's military prowess is unparalleled in the world. But there really isn't a strategist around him, especially in the early stages, who can provide him with advice. Zhang Liao and Gao Shun have unparalleled military command abilities. One is Sun Xuan's eldest father, who led 800 model soldiers to fight in Ziyajin, causing Sun Xuan to cry and howl. Another one, with 700 trapped in a camp, defeated 10,000 Cao soldiers, but unfortunately died early. But no matter how many generals there are, they can't be eaten as food. In this area of strategy, Lv Bujuan has always been a weak point, and it was not until Qinggong joined that he was able to make up for it. However, compared to others, people are infuriating. Lv Bu's opponent, Chao Ying on the opposite side, had heavyweight advisors such as Sun Yu, Qingyu, Guijia, and Zizikai. Every time Nima fights, Qinggong is always 1.1, just play around. From this, it can also be seen that Lv Bu's army really lacks strategists. Moreover, Chen Gong himself belonged to the Yanzhou aristocratic family, and his positioning should be more inclined towards the Chaoying Grand Butler, like Sun Yu. Let him go to the front line to confront Sun Yu, Gu Jia, Qing Yu, and others, although he can still fight. But does a person holding multiple positions want to exhaust Chen Gong? Moreover, at this timeline, Chen Gong and Lv Bu haven't met yet. On Lv Bu's side, he is eager to get rid of the predicament of being excluded and oppressed by Ding Yuan. Liu Bu, the cheap father-in-law, naturally values Gu Xuan even more as his son-in-law. Lv Bu waved his hand and instructed Zhang Liao not far away. When Yuan, the army is entrusted to you to take back. Zhang Liao nodded happily. Since Gu Xuan arrived, Lv Bu's life has become much richer. It's no longer a dull life of practicing martial arts, eating, and sleeping every day. Even his temper and personality have become much gentler. If we say, Lv Bu used to be an unparalleled god of war. Now, Lv Bu is becoming more and more approachable, with a soldier style in T-shirts. It won't be long. 2 pigeons from my family were picked up by Lv Bu, ready to be taken back to eat roasted chicken with his daughter and son-in-law. When it comes to Gu Xuan, he is also a chicken thief. No father can chew on it, okay, just chew on my father-in-law. Husband, father, you have returned. Lv Lingqi dressed in a red dress and walked out of the small courtyard. The courtyard of the Lv Bu family is not quite large. Although he has made many great achievements under Ding Yuan's command, the bonus he receives from Ding Yuan is always deducted to the death. He was already deducted a lot of bonuses and was taken by Lv Bu to help those disabled veterans who fought against Xianbei. This leads to the fact that there is not much surplus wealth at home. Even this small courtyard was left behind by the Yan family of Lady Lv Bu. Yan Shi was the biological mother of Lv Lingqi, who passed away 2 years ago. As for the legitimate wife of Lv Bu mentioned in the romance, she is not actually the biological mother of Lv Lingqi, but the younger sister of Cao Bao in Shuzhou, Lv Bu's wife. Lingqi, the wild chicken I beat for my father, come and taste it now. Liu Bu waved to Liu Lingqi, but Liu Lingqi walked over and hugged Gu Xuan. This scene tickled the popularity of Lv Bu, the father-in-law. Sure enough. The little cotton jacket is getting old and starting to leak air. Cough cough. Changhen, Lingqi, you two are already married. As a father, I think it's time for you to move out and live. Lv Bu said seriously. Changhen, also known as Gu Xuan's courtesy name. Gu Xuan spread his hands and helplessly said. Father-in-law, aren't we seeing you all bored here? Upon hearing these words, Lv Bu almost stood up on the table. What a special thing. What kind of nonsense is this? See me bored here. Can you just show off your love casually while I'm bored here? However, Lv Bu just casually mentioned it. At present, Emperor Lu Hong's health is getting worse and worse, and all parties are restless. Especially the border warlords supported by aristocratic families, such as Dong Zhuo and Ding Yuan. For example, Liu Yan, who proposed to abolish history and establish animal husbandry, left Luoyang and ran to Yizhou for separatist rule. The frequency of exchanging letters between the Yuan family and Ding Yuan has been very high recently. Perhaps in no time, Ding Yuan will lead troops to Beijing. No matter how complex the relationship with Ding Yuan may be. As the main force of the Bingzhou army, Lv Bu naturally cannot stay in Jiuyuan. At that time, the daughter and son-in-law will also have to follow Lv Bu to the capital. The smoke from the kitchen is curling up, and my pigeons are cooked very quickly. In addition, with Gu Xuan's specially made sauce, although the taste of roasted chicken is still not as good as that of later generations, it still has 80% of the flavor of later generations. Eliminating 2 roasted chickens, Lv Bu picked up the Fangtian painted halberd to practice in the courtyard for digestion. Of course, the frequency of oscillation is not as rapid as on the battlefield. Unlike Lv Bu, who strives for excellence and takes a 100-foot pole to the next level, Gu Xuan has no talent in martial arts at all. However, Lv Lingqi has already acquired the inheritance of Lv Bu. Although not comparable to the top players in the world, it can still be considered worthy of stepping into the threshold of first-class players. Unconsciously, half an hour passed. Suddenly, there was a knocking on the door outside the yard. The newcomer is a personal soldier beside Ding Yuan. Opening the door, the private soldier's nostrils turned upwards and said, "Lord Lv Bu, the Lord has called you to the council hall for discussion." The personal soldiers beside Ding Yuan represent his attitude. With the help of Gu Xuan, Lv Bu did indeed regain some of the military power of the Bingzhou army. But those military powers were not personally held by Lv Bu, but were handed over to Zhang Liao and Gu Xuan. Lv Bu's current position is still weak. It can be seen from this that Ding Yuan's heart and mind are really not big. Lv Bu silently clenched his fist and walked towards the outside of the courtyard. Gu Xuan quickly grabbed Lv Bu and gave him a few orders. Dealing with Ding Yuan is easy, but now Lu Hong is not dead and the Han court is not completely finished. After Ding Yuan's death, there is a high probability that Lu Hong will not appoint Lv Bu as the new governor of Bingzhou, and the Yuan family will also treat Lv Bu as an enemy. At that time, perhaps before they can withstand the separatist rule of the warlords, they will be attacked by the whole world. Therefore, the current Ding Yuan cannot die yet. But he can be slowly elevated through other means. It's not too late to kill Ding Yuan after his value is depleted. P.S. Friends who often read the Three Kingdoms series should know that there are very few people who write about Lv Bu, and even fewer who write well. There are a lot of handsome readers who think this book is still acceptable. They can cast flowers, evaluation votes, and monthly votes to support the author. The author wishes that the handsome readers of the data will become wealthy in the new year and be pursued by various beautiful women. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3. Lv Bu goes angry and furious. Dingyuan people are almost scared. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the conference hall Ding Yuan sat in the first place. He, who is over 50 years old, can also be considered an old oilseed in the officialdom. In the first half of my life, I didn't achieve much. In recent years, relying on the Yuan family to become the father of the wealthy behind the scenes, he has been getting better and better. Now, he has even become the governor of Bingzhou and a high-ranking official in the frontier. Dante also had his own troubles. He has no biological son. The current heir is Ding Yang, a nephew who was adopted from the family. Although he is an adopted nephew, at the age of Ding Yuan, it is also difficult to conceive a new person. Therefore, Ding Yang's identity as an heir is inevitable. Ding Yang, who was about 20 years old and had crooked melons and cracked dates, sat at the top on the right side. In the Han Dynasty, the right was revered. Ding Yang assumes that he is the first person under Ding Yuan. Those sitting on Ding Yang's side are either Ding Yuan or Ding Yang's confidants. My own abilities may not be outstanding. But the ability to flatter others is even stronger. Sitting on the left is a military general from the Bingzhou army. These people mostly respect the strong and sneer at the group on the right. Zhang Liao and Gu Xuan are also prominent among the ranks. There is no other way. The Han Dynasty pursued martial arts and emphasized military achievements. Bingzhou is also a frontier defense province, often dealing with foreign tribes and easily gaining military achievements. Wei Qinghua is also a national idol. Even if Ding Yuan suppresses these generals no matter how much, he still has to give the military merit he deserves. Otherwise, if the martial arts warriors of Bingzhou start to stir up trouble, Ding Yuan will really be finished. This is also why in the original history, Lv Bu killed Ding Yuan and all the Bingzhou army followed him. In the eyes of the soldiers in Bingzhou, Lv Bu is the god of war, the strongest and most meritorious, and also the protector of everyone. He is a hero who can lead everyone to turn the world around, crush the Xianbei cavalry, and kill the Xianbei Wanfu commander more than once. And what about Ding Yuan? He hid in the camp immediately after the battle, and after the battle, he forcefully pinned Lv Bu's military achievements on himself. It is more accurate to say that Lv Bu rebelled against Ding Yuan than to say that the soldiers of Bingzhou have been suffering from the hardships of Ding Yuan for a long time. Ding Yang saw the disdain in the eyes of the generals on the left, and he was a bit angry and defeated, saying, "Lv Bu, this guy is really audacious. Sure enough, such a person who doesn't understand etiquette can't stand the stage." The Lord called him for a meeting to save face. "But how long has it been since we last came over?" Ding Yang used to curse casually just for the sake of speaking out loud. But unexpectedly, before he could finish speaking, Lv Bu's voice rang out from outside. "General, I'm here. Do you have any objections?" Ding Yang had not turned back yet, and Lv Bu was in front of him. He grabbed forward with his left hand, as if picking up my pigeon, and held Ding Yang in his hand. This move, in the pesticide game, is called Lv Bu Dashan plus Greedy Wolf's Grip. Puff. Ding Yang was heavily thrown to the ground by Lv Bu, feeling extremely embarrassed. Lv Bu, how dare you?" Ding Yang held his red neck, panting heavily. Just now, Ding Yang felt the threat of death. If Lv Bu tries harder, he is afraid that Ding Yang will really die here. Little did they know. What kind of martial arts skills does Lv Bu possess? The control of the force has long reached a perfect level. His previous move, the grip of the greedy wolf, not only made Ding Yang afraid, but also prevented him from being choked to death. The group of people sitting on the left side of the conference hall were scared out of their wits. Ding Yuan himself is also too atmospheric to take a breath. After half a minute, Ding Yuan slowly spoke up. "Lv Bu. What do you mean by beating your colleagues without reason? Isn't it because I see my old man as having nothing?" Ding Yuan, this is a forced outfit. His palms and backs were covered in cold sweat. The only thing that can give him a little peace of mind is that there are still 100 personal guards outside the camp. But if these 100 personal guards really start fighting, I'm afraid there's no need for Zhang Liao and Gu Xuan to take action. Lv Bu can solve it alone with just a Fang Tian Hua Ji. Although one's kung fu is high, they are afraid of many people. But with over 100 people, Lv Bu can still handle it. Otherwise, do you really think the top military force in the Three Kingdoms is just a decoration? However, under Gu Xian's persuasion, Lv Bu understood that he could not kill Ding Yuan now. At least Ding Yuan was also appointed as the governor of Bingzhou by Lu Hong himself. The broken ship of the Han is still alive. If we really kill Ding Yuan now, Lv Bu will become the enemy of the world. Even if it was to kill the chicken and warn the monkey, Lu Hong would immediately mobilize troops from all over the world to besiege Lv Bu. Therefore, regarding Ding Yuan's questioning, Lv Bu smiled and said, "Why don't you take a look, my lord? Who insulted who first? Could it be that the lord wants to tolerate his nephew's bullying of his subordinates?" No, my lord wouldn't be such a person, would he?" Before the words fell, everyone in the room was shocked. Once a man starts green tea, there's nothing for a woman. So, what kind of scene would it look like if it were a strong green tea like Lv Bu? The first reaction in everyone's hearts was that Lv Bu had changed. Most likely, the original Lv Bu would not take action against Ding Yang, but would silently accept this frustration. But now Lv Bu not only takes action against Ding Yang, but also dares to yin yang Ding Yuan. Ding Yuan's old face was holding back like a prickly heat, and suddenly turned yellow. Mute-eating Huanglian, unable to explain the bitterness. Even if he wanted to find an excuse to punish Lv Bu, he couldn't speak up when Lv Bu said so. Who made Ding Yuan the first person to insult Lv Bu? There's no way, this matter can only be left unresolved and treated as if it hasn't happened. Lv Bu's gaze swept towards the seats on the left and right sides. The column on the left belongs to the generals, and Ding Yuan specially missed a seat. At the end of the left side, there was a special seat reserved for Lv Bu, indicating that he wanted to humiliate him. Unexpectedly, at the next moment, Lv Bu walked straight forward. Ding Yuan's thighs trembled. Is it difficult? Is Lv Bu going to? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. The Two Swords of the Yuan Family, and the Bingzhou Army's discussion on entering Beijing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Gao Shun and Zhang Liao stood up in succession, intending to give up their position to Lv Bu. Because they have a lot of military achievements, they also sit in the front position on the side of the general. Ding Yuan's face trembled with fear. Lv Bu walked towards the front, neither to the left nor to the right however. Just when Lv Bu was only 3 meters away from Ding Yuan, he suddenly walked to the right and sat down in his original position as Ding Yang. My lord, it's inconvenient for me to sit in this position, is it okay? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone almost burst into laughter. Difficulty in legs and feet, Lv Bu's excuse is really arbitrary. Ding Yuan himself, his face turned pale with anger. But he couldn't refute Lv Bu. Inconvenient legs and feet, in the eyes of outsiders, are just a casual excuse made by Lv Bu. Only Ding Yuan himself could hear clearly. Lv Bu is actually mocking Ding Yuan. In a battle with Xian Bei, due to Ding Yuan's wrong decision, he fell into the predicament of being surrounded by the enemy. Moreover, Ding Yuan was also shot by the enemy and couldn't walk. It was Lv Bu who rescued Ding Yuan from the chaotic army and carried him back step by step. The similar story of Lv Bu saving Ding Yuan has occurred more than once. Taking a deep breath, Ding Yuan agreed. Feng Xian, that's your seat. Please sit down quickly. Upon hearing these words, Ding Yang widened his eyes and looked at his uncle in disbelief. Ding Yang, you sit at the end of the right seat. Ding Yuan quickly winked at Ding Yang. At this critical moment, if we continue to make trouble, it will only be their uncle and nephew who will embarrass us. Ding Yang reluctantly became the goalkeeper on the right side. Everyone had taken their seats, and Ding Yuan spoke up. Ladies and gentlemen, I have received news that Dong Zhuo defeated the Han Sui Ma-Ting coalition a month ago. The rebellion in Liangzhou has basically been cleared up. If you want me to be the governor, this old Dong Zhuo is just lucky. It's also strange that Huanfu Song was incompetent. The rebels he couldn't suppress were actually suppressed by Dong Zhuo's old son. If it were our Bingzhou Legion, we might have achieved even greater results. It has to be said that Ding Yuan still has 2 brushes. When he said these words, everyone nodded frequently, even Lv Bu was no exception. As both border garrisons, the Bingzhou army would not admit that Dong Zhuo's Xiliang army was more powerful than them. However, Ding Yuan's story changed. News came from Luoyang that the emperor's health was deteriorating and he had even experienced several instances of vomiting blood. The 10 constant attendants and others were extremely anxious about this. When he said these words, Ding Yuan's eyebrows clearly showed a smile. In today's world, Yuan Wei, He Jin, Dong Zhuo, Ding Yuan, Yuan Shao, Yuan Shu, and others are all eagerly awaiting the death of Lu Hong. For He Jin, once Lu Hong dies, his great-uncle and elder brother will hold the highest authority and become the truly strongest relative. After all, my nephew Liu Bian is only 10 years old. A 10-year-old child who knows nothing about imperial power. This precious thing, the water is too deep, let his uncle help hold it. And what about the Yuan family? As the leader of the world's aristocratic family, why don't you want to go further? The plan that has been planned for many years can be further implemented as long as Lu Hong dies. In the eyes of the Yuan family, Dong Zhuo was originally a young brother who was supported by himself. At that time, as long as we kill He Jin and the 10 regular servants, isn't it their Yuan families the final say? Dong Zhuo and Ding Yuan both yearn to lead troops into the capital. Leading troops to the capital means that their border troops will gain more power and status. Therefore, the only one who really doesn't want Lu Hong to die is the 10 constant attendants. The 10 constant attendants wield great power and authority, doesn't they look very imposing? But is there a possibility that the power of eunuchs essentially depends on imperial power? The vast majority of eunuchs are actually personally supported by the emperor and serve as the sword in his hand. Emperor, that cannot be stained with blood. Leave the blood-stained work to the eunuch. Once Lu Hong dies, He Jin and others cannot accommodate the 10 attendants. Lu Bian is still just a child, so it is impossible to give them any shelter. Therefore, Lu Hong's lifespan is approximately equal to the countdown to the downfall of the 10 constant attendants. Seeing the audience listening attentively, Ding Yuan smiled and said, "You are all trusted by the governor of our province. I, the governor, will tell the truth. With the strength of my Bingzhou legion, it is enough to enter the capital and serve as a loyal king." General and Yuan Taifu both intended to recruit our Bingzhou army to the capital and assist them in eliminating the 10 regular attendants. What are your opinions on this? Everyone looked left and right, and to some extent, some expectations rose in their hearts. In the general direction, it is definitely not a problem for the Bingzhou army to enter Beijing and approach the center of power. Because the Han Dynasty court is not yet finished. Who dares to openly shout for independence and separatism? It's definitely seeking death. Shooting a bird with a gun is like this. Including Liu Yan, who proposed to abolish history and establish animal husbandry, and went to Yizhou to become the local emperor, he currently dare not arrogantly say that he wants to establish himself through separatism. No, Liu Yan pretended to support Zhang Lu in secret. Every day he shouted, "If the rice thieves cause trouble, I will protect myself for Yizhou." Little did they know. Zhang Lu's mother and Liu Yan have an old romantic relationship. Zhang Lu can be considered half of Liu Yan. The purpose of Zhang Lu's existence was to burn down the plank roads in Hanzhong and become a barrier for Liu Yan to isolate the Han court. On Ding Yuan's side, he was very interested in the matter of entering the capital, both in civil and martial arts. However, at this moment, an urgent report was delivered from the neighboring county. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. Ding Yuan's intention to get rid of Lv Bu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing the sentry break into the conference hall, Ding Yuan's face turned displeased and said, "What kind of panic is it?" The sentry knelt on the ground and reported. "Report to Lord, there is news from Yanmen Pass that the southern Xiongnu intend to invade Bingzhou. According to our brother's investigation, the southern Xiongnu have assembled tens of thousands of troops on the border, led by the left prince Liu Bei. Gudu. I don't know who it is, but the sound of swallowing came over, maybe it was Ding Yuan. As a frontier defense state, the responsibility of Bingzhou was to resist the successors of the northern Xiongnu. The Xiongnu, during the pre-Qin and Han dynasties, once established a huge territory on the northern grasslands and were the biggest enemy of the Han family's Erlang. But the management mechanism of the Xiongnu was quite backward, ultimately leading to division. The current southern Xiongnu, Xianbei, and Wuhuan were all split from the Xiongnu. Among them, Xianbei attacked Bingzhou the most times. On the other hand, the southern Xiongnu were caught up in a civil war and unable to afford it. But now, the civil war of the southern Xiongnu has clearly been resolved. Autumn is the season when humans and various animals prepare food for winter. This also makes autumn the best season for nomadic tribes to travel south. Facing both the Xianbei and the southern Xiongnu tribes, the border defense pressure of Bingzhou is not insignificant. Ding Yuan clenched his hands tightly. If it were changed to normal, it wouldn't matter. Anyway, the significance of the existence of the Bingzhou Legion is to resist foreign tribes such as the Xianbei southern Xiongnu. But right now, Lu Hong may have a hiccup at any time. Once Lu Hong burps his butt, it's the race time between Ding Yuan and Dong Zhuo. Don't be fooled by the fact that these two people appear to be the support of the Yuan family. But the principle that one mountain cannot tolerate two tigers is clear in their hearts. Whoever enters the capital first will have greater power. Unfortunately, the time to enter Beijing still needs to be stuck after Lu Hong's death. If we enter early and Lu Hong is not dead yet, then we will become rebels. So, the knowledge involved is very extensive. For Ding Yuan, the most important thing at the moment is to constantly monitor the changes in Luoyang. Once there is any change, hurry to Beijing and don't delay even a minute or a second. But as the southern Xiongnu headed south, no one knew whether they would just hit the autumn breeze and leave, or if they wanted to seize more territory. What if Bingzhou is invaded by the southern Xiongnu? You should know that Dong Zhuo from Liangzhou has now resolved the rebellion of Ma Tang and Han Sui, and is ready to enter the capital at any time. Ding Yuan really doesn't want to fall behind Dong Zhuo. Seeing Ding Yuan's entanglement, Ding Yang stood up again and said, "Lord, entering the capital is a major event. What's the point of giving up Yanmen Pass to the southern Xiongnu?" Bold. Bold Ding Yang, bewitching the crowd with demonic words. Before the words could be finished, several generals stood up and glared angrily at Ding Yang. For the generals of Bingzhou, it was their duty to protect their home and country, and it was also something they had been persisting in throughout their lives. Yanmen Pass was the front line that blocked the southward movement of the southern Xiongnu. Once Yanmen Pass is lost, Bingzhou will instantly become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered in the eyes of the southern Xiongnu. Ding Yuan gave Ding Yang a fierce glare. This kind of brainless speech is also thanks to his nephew being able to come up with it. Even if I really have this idea in my heart, it's okay to discuss it privately between my uncle and nephew after the meeting is over. How can we move in front of the public? Ding Yang looked like a frightened quail, bowing his head without saying a word. The one who hasn't spoken yet is Lv Bu. He recalled the conversation between Gu Xuan and him not long ago in his mind. My father-in-law, the new Chanyu Huchequan of the southern Xiongnu ascended to the throne, and it is highly likely that he will soon move south and have the idea of joining our province. Ding Yuan is in Luoyang and probably doesn't want to talk to the southern Xiongnu. But Ding Yuan couldn't really leave the southern Xiongnu unattended. At that time, my father-in-law can take the initiative to propose and lead troops to Yanmen Pass to resist the southern Xiongnu's southward advance. As for the matter of entering Beijing, my father-in-law can rest assured that it will not be delayed. Although Lv Bu doesn't know why Gu Xuan can be certain that Lu Hong won't die within 6 months. But given his trust in his son, in-law and his determination to defend Bingzhou, Lv Bu chose to trust Gu Xuan. In the next moment, Lv Bu suddenly stood up and clenched his fists at Ding Yuan, saying, "Lord, please order me to go to Yanmen Pass to guard." As soon as this statement was made, the generals burst out laughing. Lv Bu stood up, which means they have a backbone. They believe that under the leadership of Lv Bu, the Xianbei southern Xiongnu were just garbage. Ding Yuan's eyebrows furrowed slightly, but quickly relaxed. It's actually not impossible to have Lv Bu stationed at Yanmen Pass. But the military power entrusted to Lv Bu should not be too much. For Ding Yuan, preparing to enter Beijing is currently a top priority. Before entering the capital, I happened to throw Lv Bu at the Yanmen pass, causing him to miss the entrance. As for Ding Yuan, who brought other generals from Bingzhou to the capital, he still held great power and even shook off the difficult burden of Lv Bu. Isn't it too fast? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6 Zhang Liao and Gao Shun. Ding Yuan, don't panic, we all. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Feng Xian, my son, is indeed a pillar of the country. As a father, I do not care for you in vain. Ding Yuan stroked his beard and smiled. His eyes were filled with mockery towards Liu Bu. Liu Bu ignored him and instead spoke up. I remember when Yuan was from Mai, Yanmen, right? Please appoint Wen Yuan as the commander-in-chief to guard Yanmen past this time. I can follow under the name of Zhu Bo. As soon as these words were spoken, Ding Yuan's smile between his eyebrows and eyes intensified. Don't forget, the position held by Liu Bu is main thin. Master Bo, bring a damn soldier. It would be better to hand over the identity of the main general to Zhang Liao. In Ding Yuan's view, he has been quite accommodating towards Zhang Liao recently. Compared to Liu Bu, who is thin, Ding Yuan, the governor of Bingzhou, is the true golden thigh. As long as Zhang Liao is not a fool, he should know how to do it. Little did they know. Recently, Zhang Liao accepted Ding Yuan's persuasion and completely followed Gu Xuan's strategy, pretending to be close to Ding Yuan. There's no way. The two confidants under Liu Bu's command were Zhang Liao and Gao Shun. Gao Shun has a strong and steady personality, unlike those who easily betray Liu Bu. Even if he pretended to be close to Ding Yuan would definitely take precautions against Gao Shun. But Zhang Liao is different. Firstly, Zhang Liao is from Yanmen, Bingzhou, and is not from the same hometown as Lv Bu. Furthermore, compared to Gao Shun, who is not good at speaking, Zhang Liao is clearly more suitable for pretending to be close to Ding Yuan. As expected, it was consistent with Gu Xuan's expectations. Seeing Zhang Liao actively approaching him, Ding Yuan decisively increased the military power in Zhang Liao's hands. In Ding Yuan's view, this is a manifestation of his domineering aura. Even Lv Bu's confidants like Zhang Liao have voluntarily joined, who else can compare with his Ding Yuan? Therefore, for Zhang Liao's appointment as the main general, Ding Yuan was almost in seconds of criticism. Lv Bu, please work hard for me as the governor, and in the future, I can still allow you, a martial artist, to enjoy happiness in the capital. Ding Yuan thought so in his heart. As for giving real power to Liu Bu, don't even think about it. What is the specific size of Ding Yuan's mind? Probably similar to the golden needle mushroom. After the meeting ends, Zhang Liao and Gao Shun exchanged silent glances. In no time, the two of them took different paths and arrived at Liu Bu's house. Coincidentally, Liu Bu had just entered the door. Zhang Liao and Gao Shun quickly asked. Feng Xian, is today's matter not a plan of Changhan? Liu Bu crossed his waist and smiled, saying. That's not right. I have Changhan, why be afraid of Dingyuan Laoer? Zhang Liagaoshan also laughed heartily. Since the establishment of Gu Xuan, he has never suffered a loss in the struggle between Lv Bu and Ding Yuan. Moreover, every time it seems like Ding Yuan is making a profit, but in reality, his underpants are almost gone. Without saying anything else, let's talk about the current military in Bingzhou. At least 60% of the officers support Liu Bu in their hearts. Not overthrowing Ding Yuan is just because Liu Hong is not dead yet, and Ding Yuan still has value. Father-in-law, General Wen Yuan, General Bopping, what are you whispering at the door? Come and have dinner quickly. Gu Xuan greeted him. The three of them quickly sat down. Zhang Liao smiled and said. Changhen, you didn't know that your father-in-law was in the limelight at the meeting just now. Oh. Isn't it that Ding Yuan and Ding Yang have come up with something new? Gu Xuan raised his eyebrows. Zhang Liao quickly informed Gu Xuan of what had just happened. After listening, Gu Xuan gave a thumbs up to Lv Bu. Father-in-law, being honest with you is really cool, but unfortunately my son-in-law couldn't witness your style at the meeting. Lv Bu immediately snorted. Once this general gains control of the Bingzhou army, we must make Changhen sit at the head of the civil service. If anyone has any objections then, General, I will use the Fang Tian Hua Ji to fork him out. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone burst into laughter. It can be said that Lv Bu is a father-slayer, and a slave of the three surnames, but it cannot be said that Lv Bu is not good to his brothers in Bingzhou. In history, the reason why Lv Bu was destroyed was not only because Cao Cao was too strong, but also because Chen Dang and his son sold him. Chen Dang, as a top aristocratic family in Suzhou, naturally seeks to gain more political power and benefits. But generals like Zhang Liao, Gao Shun, Cao Xing, Qing Weiyan, and others from Bingzhou followed Lv Bu until the end of the battle. Even Song Xian, Ho Cheng, and Wei Su, who were part of the traitor trio in Yanmen, did not betray Lv Bu. Instead, Lv Bu took the initiative to let them tie him up and hand him over to Cao Cao. This is quite subversive. But according to existing historical records, the story of the three sellers seeking glory has been completely overturned. The real situation is that Lv Bu saw that Xiepi was flooded, and the Suzhou aristocratic families such as Chen Dang and Chen Gui had betrayed each other, with no chance of winning for his own side. In the end, he called Wei Shusong Xianho and asked them to tie themselves up and hand them over to Cao Cao to protect the brothers in Bingzhou. No matter how future generations evaluate Lv Bu. At least for now, Lv Bu is Gu Xuan's father-in-law and Lv Lingqi's father. Gu Xuan had no reason to let Lv Bu fall into the embarrassing situation of hanging from the White Gate Tower in history. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. The Great Invasion of the Southern Xiongnu. Gu Xuan. It's just. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After dinner, Zhang Liao asked Gu Xuan. Changhen, although the Yanmen Pass is sturdy, according to intelligence, the number of southern Xiongnu cavalry outside the pass is highly likely to be tens of thousands. Ding Yuan can only provide me and Feng Xian with thousands of troops at most. In addition, there was originally an army at Yanmen Pass, so it's not a problem to defend it. But what should we do to defeat the southern Xiongnu? Gu Xianmin took a sip of tea and smiled, saying. It is said that the leader of the team is Liu Bei, the left sage king. This person, like Huchequan, was the beneficiary of the bloody coup of the southern Xiongnu. But the biggest characteristic of these two people is that they are young and do not have much prestige. In order to perform meritorious deeds, the left sage king Liu Bei was determined to win the Yanmen Pass. But the southern Xiongnu centurions he brought this time may not necessarily have the same heart as him. We just need to seize the right opportunity to launch a surprise attack on Liu Bei, and we can cause chaos for the southern Xiongnu army. At that time, with the bravery of my father-in-law and General Yuan Yuan, it would be as easy as knocking down several thousand and 10,000 commanders of the southern Xiongnu. Zhang Liao's eyes lit up. In war, many times we look beyond our own military strength. The internal contradictions of the enemy are the key to shaping the war situation. For example, in the Battle of Beilangshan in ancient history, the number of Wuhuan people was much greater than that of the Chao army. But Zhang Liao made a decisive decision and launched a surprise attack on the Wuhuan Central Army, killing the Wuhuan king Taduan. As soon as Taduan died, Wuhuan collapsed and became a lamb to be slaughtered. For example, the Battle of Ziyijin against Sun 100000. Is Jiang Dongjun really all garbage? Of course not. But Jiangdong's army has a unique feature. Strong defensive battles and tough offensive battles. The reason for this characteristic is the issue of interests. Jiangdong was jointly governed by Sun Quan and the Jiangdong aristocratic family. Other forces actively attacked Jiangdong, infringing on the interests of the Jiangdong aristocratic family. In such a situation, how could the Jiangdong aristocratic family sit idly by? However, the Jiangdong aristocratic family showed little interest in attacking Hefei. Because after being defeated, Sun Quan will not give them too many benefits. But Sun Quan and the group of Huaixi generals he promoted want to fight. So, when Zhang Liao led 800 brave warriors to launch a surprise attack, the army of the Jiangdong aristocratic family began to collapse, and only the generals of Huaixi fought desperately to protect Sun Quan. At least half of the 100,000 Jiangdong soldiers are actors. In addition, Sun Quan's military command ability was already extremely useless. This is very important. Naturally, it is impossible to defeat Zhang Liao. Nowadays, the army of the southern Xiongnu attacking Yanmen Pass appeared to be vast and mighty, but in reality, the leader was the trusted left Prince Liu Bei of Hechequan, who had little prestige. What kind of commanding ability do you expect this guy to have? Perhaps Sun Sherwan, who came to lead the army, would be even stronger than Liu Bei. Therefore, in the eyes of Ding Yuan and Ding Yang, the southern Xiongnu army looked like a hot potato, but in Gu Xuan's eyes, it was a big gift package of giving people heads, experience, and military achievements. Lv Bu patted Zhang Liao's shoulder and smiled, saying, "When Yuan, anyway, Changxian and Lingqi will also go to Yanmen Pass with you. You and I are responsible for charging into battle, while Changxian is responsible for providing advice. What kind of enemy cannot be solved?" Liu Bu's seemingly carefree behavior also stirred up Zhang Liao's emotions. "Yeah. Our side has fewer troops, but our lineup is impressive. There's no possibility of losing, right? On the contrary, it is Ding Yuan and Ding Yang. I don't know how you would feel when you heard the news of Liu Bu and his group breaking through the southern Xiongnu. Outside Yanmen Pass the wind and sand filled the sky, and countless southern Xiongnu cavalry dressed in animal skins gathered here. At first glance, this group of southern Xiongnu soldiers appeared to be numerous and imposing. But upon closer examination, one can find that their faces are mostly filled with reluctance. The nomadic and Han ethnic groups are different. On the side of the southern Xiongnu, although the nominal leader was called De Chanyu. But in reality, soldiers are in the hands of centurions from different tribes. If the commander resists De Chanyu, these soldiers will naturally follow the commander. And the new grand chant of the southern Xiongnu, Yu Hechequan, did not succeed as usual, but killed his brother Yu Fuluo. Most of the feudal lords within the southern Xiongnu were only temporarily subservient to Hechequan. In my heart, I hold a contemptuous attitude towards Hechequan. No one was available at Hechequan, so his confidant Liu Bei was promoted to the position of left prince and appointed as the second in command of the southern Xiongnu, leading the army to attack Yanmen Pass. If we can really defeat Yanmen Pass, Hechequan's control over the internal affairs of the southern Xiongnu will inevitably increase step by step. But if we can't win, we'll lose a lot of face. Speaking of Liu Bei, he is also a strange person. This person is the son of the previous southern Xiongnu Chanyu, with the so-called Xiongnu royal bloodline sticking to his body. But Liu Bei himself admired Chinese culture very much, and every day he clamored for Sinicization within the southern Xiongnu. In order to lead by example, he even changed his original name to the current Liu Bei. Previously, in history, Liu Bei took advantage of the chaotic period after Dong Zhuo's death and led troops to illegally cross Bingzhou, heading south to reach the vicinity of Chang'an, and kidnapped Kai Zhaoji. But this time, his fate is about to change. Perhaps even life is about to enter the countdown. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. The Flames of the Frontier and the Future Defensive Battle. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Left Prince Liu Bei, dressed in splendid attire, rode his horse to the front of the army. In an instant, countless soldiers of the southern Xiongnu cast contemptuous glances at him. Huafu, this is the attire of Han people. In the eyes of the soldiers of the southern Xiongnu, wearing animal skins and enjoying the protection of the grassland god is what Xiongnu men should do. Everyone, it seems that everyone is almost ready. Do you have confidence in conquering Yanmen Pass in one fell swoop? Lu Leopard asked the 1,000 commanders of the southern Xiongnu. Everyone was either looking at the sky or the ground, but no one paid attention to him. Only 4 or 5 people who appeared to be Liu Bei's confidants quickly stepped forward to respond and avoid silence. Liu Bei awkwardly turned around, clenched his fists, and secretly thought to himself that after taking Yanmen Pass, he wanted to make those 1,000 captains who were not satisfied with him look good. Upstairs of Yanmen Pass, City General Hao Liang looked at the southern Xiongnu soldiers outside the city like black clouds, and his mood plummeted. Due to the ongoing internal turmoil in the southern Xiongnu royal court, Yanmen Pass, as a military stronghold to defend against the invasion of the southern Xiongnu, naturally reduced the number of defenders. As the general of Yanmen Pass, Hao Liang had only over 2,000 defenders under his command. Fortunately, the Yanmen Pass was strong, and for a while, the soldiers of the southern Xiongnu could not attack it. But if no reinforcements arrive, over time, Yanmen Pass is highly likely to truly fall. A sentry was suspended from the city wall near Bingzhou by a hanging basket. He is the personal soldier sent by Hao Liang to report the military situation to Ding Yuan. Report. General Zhang Liao is leading 5,000 soldiers towards Yanmen Pass, accompanied by General Liu Bu. Upon hearing these words, Hao Liang's face instantly showed joy. With Lv Bu and Zhang Liao serving as reinforcements, the southern Xiongnu should not worry. But soon, Hao Liang's joy dissipated as the southern Xiongnu army launched an attack downstairs. Biting his teeth, Hao Liang raised his sword and shouted to the defending soldiers. Ladies and gentlemen, those Xiongnu people want to capture our Yanmen Pass and poison the villagers of Bingzhou. Do you allow such things to happen? Not allowed. The soldiers shouted in unison. Their parents, wives, and children are one of the countless people in Bingzhou. Perhaps soldiers from other places join the army for the purpose of making a living. But in border areas, soldiers are not only to make a living, but also to protect their country and defend the border. The hatred towards nomadic tribes is constantly stirring the hearts of the defenders of Yanmen Pass. Hao Liang nodded and commanded the soldiers to transport rolling wood and stones, rushing to various parts of the city tower to resist the attack of the southern Xiongnu soldiers. Father, the enemies are all wearing leather armor. Perhaps we can use fire oil to make their leather armor catch fire. A young general who appeared to be 14 or 15 years old came to Hao Liang's side and suggested. Upon hearing this, Hao Liang's eyes lit up. Zhao heir, your proposal is good. Someone, quickly move the stored oil in the city and burn these damn Xinbei people to death. P.S. Fire oil is not gunpowder, it existed during the Han Dynasty. Father, my child also wants to join you in killing enemies. The son of Hao Liang, who was called Zhao heir, pulled Hao Liang's sleeve and said. Okay. Zhao heir follows my father and soldiers to kill the enemy. But remember to protect yourself. Hao Liang did not refuse his son. As the governor of Yanmen Pass, Hao Liang's rank is not very high, but his patriotism is extremely strong. Humph, it looks like there are only 1,000 or 2,000 defenders in the city. Brothers, hurry up and break through this Yanmen Pass. A large number of southern Xiongnu soldiers were clamoring and climbing towards the city wall. Suddenly, a strong smell of flames came from the city tower. Ah 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 ah. The pig-like cries echoed through the sky and earth. Animal skin looks cool, but it is very easy to catch fire. And flames have conductivity. There were many soldiers from the southern Xiongnu who participated in the siege, and as soon as they were burned, they would become a large area. Report to the left-wise king, the enemy's fuel is really terrifying. Brothers are all very afraid. A centurion reported to Liu Bei. Liu Bei's face is uncomfortable. Is it difficult? Can this Yanmen pass still be filled with inexhaustible fuel? Keep charging for me. Helpless, the commander had no choice but to issue the order to continue charging on behalf of Liu Bei. Liu Bei's guess is indeed correct, the stock of kerosene is limited. But on the city tower, Hao Liang and his son calmly arranged for soldiers to bring in many rolling logs. Father, soldiers can ignite flames as soon as the wood is thrown down. At that time, not only can the wood hit the Xiongnu people, but it will also have the same effect as gunpowder. Hao Liang's son, also known as Hao Zhao, once again put forward valuable suggestions. With time, Zhao heir will definitely be the pillar of the country. Beside Hao Liang, several military commanders generously praised Hao Zhao. They are all comrades of Hao Liang and uncles of Hao Zhao. Hao Liang himself, his face was also full of pride. Perhaps all his time in this lifetime has been spent at Yanmen Pass. But his son is still very young. What makes me more proud than my son being excellent? Southern Xiongnu bandits, accept the burning flames. In Hao Liang's eyes, a blazing flame ignited, just like the hearts of border soldiers, passionate and stirring. P.S. Seeking flowers, seeking tickets, wishing everyone prosperity in being pursued by various beautiful women. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9 Lv Bu. I have just arrived and do not need to defend the city. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Report. Han Chinese wood will catch fire, brothers will suffer heavy casualties. The commander, with a gloomy expression on his face, came to Liu Bei's side and reported on the situation of the war. Of course, Liu Bei was not blind, he could see the group of southern Xiongnu soldiers on the city wall who were burning and howling. But now, regardless of any cost, he just wants to take Yanmen Pass. Otherwise, the already pitiful prestige will even drop to the bottom. After returning to the southern Xiongnu royal court, those 10,000 captains are likely to really take action against Liu Bei. But soon. Liu Bei can't hold on anymore. The soldiers who suffered losses were not only the direct lineage of Liu Bei, but also the subordinates of other commanders. Liu Bei, quickly order the brothers to come back. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude to you. Several heavily damaged centurions yelled at Liu Bei with red eyes. Helpless, Liu Bei had to issue an order to temporarily withdraw. The soldiers of the southern Xiongnu, overwhelmed by chaos, retreated 5 miles outside the Yanmen Pass. As the Yanmen gate closed, a deafening cheer erupted. The next day Liu Bei once again led his army to attack. But the result was no different from yesterday. Although there are few defenders at Yanmen Pass, the abilities of Hao Liang and his son are indeed good. Especially Hao Zhao, although still young now. Originally, he was a ruthless man who could use 2,000 soldiers to block tens of thousands of northern expeditionary army led by Zhuge Liang. This directly led to the failure of Zhuge Liang's second northern expedition. During the third northern expedition, upon learning of the death of Hao Zhao, Zhuge Liang continued to attack Qinsang. Liu Bei and his seemingly distant group of soldiers from the southern Xiongnu are not really opponents of Hao Liang's father and son. In the blink of an eye, 5 days have passed. Lv Bu and Zhang Liao led 5,000 reinforcements and arrived at the foot of Yanmen Pass. Upon learning of the arrival of reinforcements, the morale of the defenders at Yanmen Pass was greatly boosted. On the side of the southern Xiongnu, the already sharp contradictions quickly intensified. At night, even soldiers burned tents to express their dissatisfaction to Liu Bei. Upstairs of Yanmen Pass City Hao Liang, Hao Zhao, Lv Bu, Zhang Liao, Gu Xuan, and Gu Xuan have a clear understanding of the situation in Liu Bei's camp. Gu Xuan immediately suggested, "My father-in-law, generals, and the thousands of commanders within the southern Xiongnu have long harbored resentment towards Liu Bei. Today, our army has just arrived, and the southern Xiongnu side certainly did not expect our army to dare to launch a surprise attack on the enemy camp with inferior forces. At this moment, Liu Bei has no way to escape, and the siege of Yanmen can be lifted." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's heart surged. Including father and son Hao Liang and Hao Zhao, everyone had red eyes and wished to behead all the southern Xiongnu outside the city. Lv Bu licked his lips and turned to Hao Liang, saying, "General Hao, what do you think of my intention to launch a surprise attack on the enemy camp outside the city?" Hao Liang arched his hand and said, "This matter is decided by the general, and I have no objection. According to my observations in the past few days, the internal structure of the southern Xiongnu was by no means rigid, and even reached a point of tension." Liu Bu nodded, defending the city was not his forte. "I thought that after arriving at Yanmen Pass, I would have to be forced to defend the city first. I didn't expect to be able to come out of the city and kill the Xiongnu people with great pain just now. General Hao, I'll leave the city to you." "General, I'm going to cut off Liu Bei's dog head now." Lv Bu is also a war maniac, and his son-in-law and General Hao Liang both feel that they can fight, so this battle is naturally not a problem. Zhang Liagaishan also followed Lv Bu and prepared to leave the city. Gu Xuan stayed in the city with Hao Liang and Hao Zhao father and son. It is worth mentioning, Hao Zhao and Gu Xuan hit it off quite well and quickly got together, which made Hao Liang quite emotional. Don't think that Hao Liang is a rough guy. He could tell that Lv Bu was obedient to Gu Xuan's words. In Hao Liang's heart, he always believed that Liu Bu was more suitable for leading the soldiers of Bingzhou than Ding Yuan. It's definitely right for Hao Zhao and Gu Xuan to have a good relationship. South Xiongnu camp outside the city. Liu Bei's face turned pale with iron, and he fiercely whipped the soldiers who were causing trouble. The soldiers still looked at him with disdain in their eyes. "Damn it! Why did you set fire to the camp?" Several soldiers held their heads high and paid no attention to Liu Bei. "Just a few whips, who are you scaring?" Liu Bei was furious and ordered these arsonist soldiers to be dragged down and beheaded. But before the words could be spoken, the 10,000 commanders of the tribes to which these soldiers belonged immediately stood up to oppose. "Don't forget, even if you want to kill them, we have to give orders." Liu Bei is so angry. His already low reputation, after a few days of failure, makes him look like a clown. But at least Liu Bei was also the nominal second in command of the southern Xiongnu, representing the interests of the Huchequan faction. Just as he was about to use the title of left wise king to suppress these 10,000 commanders, the sentry outside the camp suddenly shouted, "Enemy attack! Enemy attack! The camp is on fire! It was the Han people who killed me. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Lv Bu Weizhen Yanmen Pass. Gu Xuan's plan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Whoever blocks me will die. In Liu Bu's hand, Fang Tian drew a halberd and roared. With just a few moves, countless soldiers of the southern Xiongnu died in his hands. Zhang Liao and Gu Xuan, two generals, did not fall behind either. Compared to Liu Bu, they are indeed much worse in terms of martial arts. But it was more than enough to kill these southern Xiongnu commanders. Like a sharp blade, under the leadership of Lv Bu, Zhang Liao, and Gu Xuan, it pierced through the southern Xiongnu camp. Liu Bei and the group of commanders never expected that the Han soldiers would choose to attack the camp at this time. Even many soldiers of the southern Xiongnu had taken off their animal skins and entered their dreams. But when they open their eyes again, it is often the blade of war piercing into their bodies. Kings Weizhen, hurry up and leave. Beside Liu Bei, some confidants were covering him as he broke through towards the outside, but before Liu Bei could leave the camp, a blood-red figure stood like a Shura at the entrance of the tent. Coming, it's Lv Bu. He, where do you want to escape? Have you asked General Mi about this square-drawn halberd in his hand? Not only Zhang Fei, but also Lv Bu's roar carries its own penetrating power. The several personal soldiers next to Liu Bei were so frightened that they collapsed on the ground, their souls scattered. The title, unparalleled in the world, is only owned by Lv Bu throughout the entire Three Kingdoms period. The powerful deterrent force made Liu Bei's legs tremble and urine almost gush out. General Liu, can you let me leave? I am willing to give you all my treasures. Liu Bei keeps shouting sinicization every day, and he is indeed proficient in Chinese. But precisely because of sinicization, Liu Bei knew how terrifying and ruthless Lv Bu was. The neighboring Xianbei sent two nicknames to Lv Bu. One is called Dingyuan Husband Tiger, and the other is called Dingyuan Butcher. Encountering Lv Bu, Liu Bei couldn't imagine any other way to survive besides negotiating. Treasure. Gold and silver. Lv Bu looked at Liu Bei with a disdainful expression as if he had heard a big joke. Can the mundane things you mentioned be exchanged for the life of my son in Bingzhou? Liu Bei was speechless. Every time the southern Xiongnu invaded Yanmen Pass, countless soldiers from Bingzhou died to defend the border. The southern Xiongnu and the Great Han were not only the hatred between the Xiongnu and the Han people, but also the deep-seated blood feud for which countless sons and daughters of Bingzhou sacrificed themselves. Confess now. Fang Tian painted a halberd falling. Liu Bei's round head landed and rolled on the ground one circle after another, appearing extremely ferocious. Kill them all. Lv Bu ordered from behind, and countless soldiers from Bingzhou rushed to their deaths. Liu Bei's claws and teeth were all killed by the soldiers of Bingzhou. Flames filled the air, but still could not conceal the sins of the southern Xiongnu. Tens of thousands of southern Xiongnu invaded, and only a few thousand remaining soldiers fled back. The rest has turned into ashes in front of Yanmen Pass. Taking the soldiers back to the gate, Hao Yang and Gu Xuan quickly stepped forward to welcome Lv Bu. Changhan, what kind of left-wise king has been taken over by my general? Lv Bu put down the Fangtian painted halberd, and the head strung on it was none other than Liu Bei, the left sage king. Looking at the bloody head, Gu Xuan didn't feel any discomfort. He had already followed his father-in-law Lv Bu to the battlefield several times before. Although he was just hiding behind his father-in-law, he was always someone who had seen the brutality of the battlefield. Father-in-law, send the prisoners to give the head of the left-wise king to Yichequan. There will be no more wars in the area of Yanmen Pass in the next 2 to 3 years. As for 2 or 3 years later, the person to worry about is the southern Xiongnu. A fierce light flashed in Gu Xuan's eyes. The grassland is vast and boundless. Even in the past, Wei Qinghua had to be fully prepared before leaving the frontier. It is unwise to attack the southern Xiongnu royal court with the current strength of the Bingzhou army. But in 2 or 3 years, there will be changes in the world, and the strength of the Bingzhou army will definitely increase several times. At that time, it is equally easy to pacify the southern Xiongnu royal court. And now, due to their recent departure from the civil war, the southern Xiongnu were unaware of the actual situation in Bingzhou. After obtaining Liu Bei's head, Yichequan will surely be both shocked and frightened. Even if he borrows 10 more courage, he dare not organize the army to go south again. Lv Bu stretched lazily and asked Gu Xuan. Chanhan, when will we return to Jiuyuan? Gu Xuan smiled and said. Father-in-law, isn't this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? In the letter sent to Ding Yuan, it was said that it was highly likely that Hu Chequan would send troops south again. I expect that with his old boy's courage, he wouldn't dare to transfer you back. It's not too late for us to return to Jiuyuan after we finish this winter. At that time, it will be a decisive moment. The conversation between Gu Xuan and Lv Bu was not hidden from Hao Liang. A hint of embarrassment flashed on Hao Liang's face. He was about to avoid it, but was stopped by Gu Xuan. Uncle Hao Zhao is a talented person in both literature and martial arts. You don't want him buried at Yanmen Pass for the rest of his life, do you? This statement can be said to the heart of Hao Liang. He is not a fool. After comparing the differences between Ding Yuan and Lv Bu in his heart, he immediately arched his hand and said. Hao Liang and the defenders of Yanmen Pass, at the mercy of General Lv's command, have no second thoughts. Gu Xuan and Lv Bu exchanged a glance, both showing smiles. The number of defenders at Yanmen Pass is not large, but they are all elite, and there are talents like Hao Liang and Hao Zhao father and son. With this arm, the chances of winning undoubtedly increase. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.